And the Hagmann Report for today, it is Friday, June 13th. That's right, Friday the 13th, 2014. I'm Doug Hagmann, co-host along with my son Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We've got a fantastic show planned out for you tonight, a virtual potpourri of information, news, analysis, things that are important. Things are happening so fast today, folks, that it's just incredible. So, that having said that, make sure, please, that as you enter in to this program tonight, that your seat backs and tray tables are in their full upright and locked position. Make sure your seatbelt is fastened tight and low on your lap. And in the event, of course, that things get too heavy for you, there are exits fore and aft, as well as an emergency chute just right below the floorboard. You can take either fore or aft or choose the chute. It's up to you. Folks, you're listening to the only show where the news is presented to you in 3D. And we were talking last night about issuing paper 3D glasses. So you've got them to look beyond the headlines, the bylines, the fog of disinformation that is presented to you on a platter every day. Folks, if you turned on the news in any way, shape, or form today.
Not me.
No? Not you?
Nope.
Nope. Well, I'll tell you what, if you did, what do you get? You get lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. If you turn on the radio, what do you get? You get partisan politics. You get cheerleaders from both sides, from the progressives to the conservatives. Cheerleaders.
As I didn't listen to the news today sitting in the studio, I just heard you arguing with yourself.
Well, it's a left brain, right brain thing. And it's, it's my dual personality. But folks, for the new listeners, I want to say hello to a number of people writing in to me from Wales, from UK, from Europe, several locations in Europe, from Canada, British Columbia. Hello up in British Columbia. Thanks for listening. From various states in the desert Southwest to the New England states, from Florida to Seattle. Welcome to the program tonight. Thanks for joining us. Folks, we broadcast live each and every weeknight, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. You can find us also on Christians United Broadcasting Network there. You can tune us in at the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. We're so excited as well that we have a Hagmann and Hagmann app, listening app for you. And I will be doing a write-up on this as soon as I understand it, or as soon as Joe tells me what.
And I have to apologize to Kevin for not getting in contact with you yet via phone. I was supposed to do that yesterday. I was supposed to do that today. I do apologize. I have a whole weekend ahead of me. And
you will, right? You will get a hold of him because
and if you guys
you're holding me up.
You call me.
You're holding me up
anytime. I'm holding you up?
Yeah, exactly. From understanding what we need to do here with precision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so anyway. But thanks, folks, for your belief and your trust in us as we walk through this minefield of current events together. We're going to be talking a lot about what's happening right now in Iraq because, folks, you've got front row center seats to a stage play of the globalists. People aren't getting the news. Certainly is not providing you with the bigger picture in Iraq, what's taking place. America, the West, and the world, we're bearing witness to one of the most significant geopolitical events of the last century. What's taking place in Iraq is not just significant, but it's happening, folks, by design. And with the full permission, the imprimatur of Barack Hussein Obama, America's renegade in chief, and his inner circle of outlaws. Now, on this program, folks, we're pretty loose in terms of our callers. We let you go. We let you have your say. And, we have the best audience in the world. We just have really two rules. Rule number one is, of course, Google is not a verb. We're introducing a second rule, however. And that rule is we refer to Obama. We've got a lot of respect for the presidency, the office of the president, the office. But in this case, we've got a renegade-in-chief. So when we're talking about Obama, he's not a commander-in-chief. He's not a president. I don't know if he's a renegade. Well, he's a renegade by definition, a renegade-in-chief.
Okay, but technically, I would say he's not a independent of the elite agenda doing things at his own will. He is following orders.
Correct. But renegade doesn't mean necessarily someone acting on their own volition. A renegade is an outlaw.
So don't mind.
That's all right. There's a dictionary right to your right there. Along with a thesaurus you can also use. But seriously, renegade-in-chief is our new title for Barack Hussein Obama. Barry Soetoro, actually. And you know what? He's called renegade, perhaps thousands times a day. I'll bet you, by the Secret Service. That's his super secret, not so super secret code name by the Secret Service, picked up by the White House Communications Agency. A renegade. So that's what he is. That's what we're going to call him, renegade-in-chief, and those around him in his inner circle, the band of his inner circle of outlaws. So so that's the only other rule we have. He's not a commander-in-chief. He's not the president, because actually he's never shown his constitutional eligibility to hold the office of president. He's shown what amounts to just zeros and ones on the computer screen. And that, of course, has been proven. Both the PDF file that's on the internet as well as the actual paper itself has been proven to be a forgery. But folks, what we're seeing with respect to Iraq, the rapid progression of events might cause those of us who are old enough, folks, if you remember, if you're old enough, you could reminisce about the fall of Saigon to the Viet Cong, April 30th, 1975. The grainy pictures on your television screen. Global stakes in this case, however, are exponentially higher, and the consequences to each of us individually and collectively, don't worry, they're soon going to become apparent. I was looking back through the articles I wrote over the last 2 years with the help of WR Intelligence Insider and others, and people are just not thinking big enough, or they're failing to see the larger theatrical production playing out before us. What we have seen and what we're presently seeing is the continuation of the run-up to World War III. The stage is being set, the players are being placed, the cast and crew are being positioned. The directors are, of course, positioning the people. We, the American government, the Western intelligence agencies, and even the military have equipped ISIS with the very equipment that they're using right now.
Nope. See, they changed it. Obama gave a speech today on the events that were happening in Iraq, and he called it ISIL. No longer is it ISIS.
Well,
it is ISIL.
ISIL. Let me address that. It will always be ISIS, and this is kind of an inside joke among the royal Illuminati families. ISIS. What is ISIS? What is ISIS? We've heard of ISIS, haven't we? If we've listened to Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, Steve Quayle, others. ISIS. Well, for over 3 millennia. Isis, the wife and sister of Osiris. How does that happen? The wife and sister of Osiris. And the mother of Horus. Well, she was the mythical goddess of Egypt. She was the personification of the faithful wife and devoted mother. Isis is the mistress of the words of power and the goddess of nature. She's the embodiment of magic. The lap of Isis is regarded as, get ready for this, the royal throne. Now, isn't that interesting? Isis is often depicted crowned with a throne, later with a disc and 2 horns. Guess what tree? And I was doing some research today. I've been working on several investigative reports and articles, columns. Guess what tree is sacred to Isis? Joe?
What sacred to
Isis,
meaning
the goddess
deity?
Isis,
Okay.
the Egyptian goddess Isis.
Well, are we talking about the paganist roots and the fertility and the obelisks and the ancient religion that is and has been integrated into?
Well, we're talking about the sacred tree. What tree is sacred to Isis? And I'll tell you what that. Without you having to guess, folks in the chat room. I don't. Let's see. Do I have a
tree? Let me see. Egypt is in the desert.
Oak? No.
Palm tree?
Sorry about that. No. Okay, somebody in the chat room, you guys can do it.
Sand tree?
You guys can do it. 9/11. Think 9/11.
Sycamore?
Oh.
Cedar?
No, not the cedar tree. Okay, I'll come to your rescue. The sycamore tree. Did you just say that?
Yes, I did. I said a sycamore tree after you said 9/11. Think 9/11.
Okay, I you know what? That just proves I cannot read the chat and do the show at the same time.
The Jonathan Cahn.
That's right.
Did the Harbinger book where he pointed out what was in Isaiah 9:11. And let me pull up my e-Bible here on my computer, as I have 3 books open right in front of me. I don't have room to get the actual Bible out, but it talks about, it's something that was a phrase that was repeated by Tom Daschle.
That's right.
Was John Kerry one of them?
Daschle, Bush.
Edwards.
Okay.
And I think Obama wrote it, the phrase, on the beam that went on the...
Yes.
What's it called? The Islamic spiral thing that goes on top of their buildings. It's here. The bricks are falling down, but we will build with hewn stones. The sycamores are cut down, but we will change them into cedars.
Right.
Therefore, the Lord shall set up the adversaries of Rezin against him and join his enemies together. And then, interestingly, then it goes into the Syrians in the next verse. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Syria, what's happening in the Middle East. What we're seeing, what's really going on, aside from what's being reported, there's a lot of things being reported, and there's a lot of pieces missing to why this is happening, how this has happened, and I'm just kind of coming around myself.
Well, one of the things that, with respect to Iraq and ISIS, this group ISIS, it's the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Now, Obama is now referring to ISIS as ISIL, which is the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. But more precisely, very precisely, it is ISIS, and it's an inside joke or an insider's joke, not so funny, to refer to this Islamic terrorist group as ISIS, which has its roots and has its direct connections to the goddess Isis. And you might think, well, boy, you better double up on your meds, Doug, or stop taking them, or do something, because this all sounds really crazy. But folks, what is this all about? Can this happen by accident? Everything we're seeing taking place before us, is this all just one big misunderstanding? It's interesting because, as I've written many times before, we're seeing this theatrical production consisting of seemingly unrelated acts on the world stage. You've got the Arab Spring, you've got various things taking place throughout the Middle East. Although they're presented by the captured corporate media and their cheerleaders of partisan politics as either unfortunate and unforeseeable mishaps, or even worse, incompetence by the renegade in chief and his determined band of outlaws, folks, they're attributable to neither. Rather, what we're seeing is the opening scene of Act 2, which is the final cast placement in the run-up to World War III, as was always intended, separated only by a brief intermission due to the public exposure of Benghazi. It all comes back to two things: Syria and Benghazi. Iraq is being transformed into a nation-state level of hard-lined Al-Qaeda and Taliban-related terrorists, once again known as ISIS, or as the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or Obama wants to get away from ISIS and throw in Levant. Now, folks, think about this, and I'm being very, very serious about this. I'm not being glib at all, but one can only imagine the sadness, the outrage that as the veterans and the families of veterans, every American family who has been personally touched by the death, the disfigurement, or the permanent debilitation of their loved ones in the military, watching what's taking place in Iraq. Yes, reminiscent of Vietnam, indeed reminiscent of Vietnam. The sand and soil of a land far away has yet to absorb all of their blood that has been shed under the guise of freedom, and amid a patriotic fervor that's really been scripted by the studios of the globalists. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps the advanced knowledge that we would turn over the controlling reins of Iraq. Maybe that was only known to the globalist scriptwriters and certain cast members. Maybe this is the reason, perhaps, that returning veterans would one day be considered a domestic terror threat, for wouldn't it indeed be an understandable response to such an insidious plot? I see this as Iraq as the stage production turning into a staging area. When John Kerry visited the Middle East back in December of last year, what did he do? What did he say? He assured ISIS, he assured the terrorists, the very people that were fighting and killing our men and women, that we were not going to intervene. He left, they left, the United States, we left the storage depots full of weapons, Humvees, guns, ammunition, every weapon imaginable. Did we destroy them upon our exodus from Iraq? No. We never sent Drone 1 to destroy the weapons. We said we're not going to get involved. And we walked away, leaving the very Humvees driven by our guys, our men and women, to ISIS, to this formidable group that's cutting off the heads of Christians and cutting off the heads of those who are involved in attempting to keep Iraq free. Now, I know there's arguments, there's discussions about, well, was it ever intended to be some sort of allied country? Well, certainly under Obama, it's not. Under Kerry and Clinton, no, of course not. We walk away. We support the Islamic or ISIS. What do you think they're going to do aside from establishing this Islamic State in Iraq? Where are they headed? They're headed straight up. We talked about this before. They're opening a brand new front on the southern and eastern portion of Syria, and they're going directly after Assad. This is the plan. This is Plan B or Plan C or Plan D, one of the plans in the bigger picture. Assad, Syria. This has always been the objective. And what you're seeing right now is a few people talking about this. We were talking about this right after Benghazi. What was Benghazi all about? The exposure of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, as written by Michael Reagan in the article Building on the Kernel of Truth in the American Thinker, and as written in, I think, 40-some articles that I wrote at CanadaFreePress.com and HomelandSecurityUS.com. If you go to, very simply, if you go to the latter, if you go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, hover over investigative reports on the top right, click on investigative reports. Don't click on DHS Insider reports. Click on investigative reports. There you will find a listing of all of the articles that I did on investigative reports that I did on Benghazi, Libya, Syria, the run-up to World War III, giving you the program, the scorecard into what's happening today. And this is what it's all about. And isn't it interesting, if we go back and we look at these insider messages, we know the insiders communicate with each other. We know that the royal families, the Illuminatus, when I say royal families, I'm talking about the royal bloodlines, I suppose. We know that they have this communication, right? They do. So, isn't it interesting that little things like little acronyms like ISIS could very well be an inside joke, especially when we're talking about the reshaping of the Middle East? Isn't it something that we're talking about this today? Can you imagine? I mean, in the headline on Drudge today, Bush is silent. Bush is silent.
George Bush?
Yeah. He doesn't want to get caught in criticizing a current president. And the conservatives are clapping. It's
part of a design to happen, though. I mean, really, you can't expect you're going to go spread democracy as your stated goal, and rebuild colonialism all across these nations that we went in and bombed and reformed, trained the police forces. Yet just to destabilize and throw into chaos all the countries around the two, Afghanistan and Iraq, that we initially went into. Now you have a civil war in Syria that's been going on 2.5 years. You have what you would call a bait and switch.
Civil war? No. There was never really any civil war until the Western intelligence agencies ceded that discord.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And I'm stating that as I think people know that. We even talked about an experience we had at the EMP conference we were at, the 1 Second After book, where we were talking to a mother of a CIA agent who said that her son was in the Middle East doing things in the CIA that wouldn't come to fruition for a few years, and that was before things started to get nasty over there. And since then we've had Benghazi, we've had so many instances, gun running openly and secretly, and many other things that have come out. The people who are in this ISIS group, the Al-Qaedas, are U.S. creation. They, Hillary Clinton admitted that in a speech she gave to the Congress a while back, and you had the top leader of ISIS released from prison by Obama in 2009. I don't know if you saw it.
Right, correct. Yeah,
and now they're saying to the USA, soon we will be in direct confrontation. That from the ISIS leader.
Well, okay. And what? See, but what's the end goal here, folks? Really? And Joe? No.
Well, yeah.
Well,
world peace.
Okay, world peace.
Not godly, biblical.
Right.
Peace, but the end goal is chaos to the point it brings peace and the Antichrist.
Well, correct, and it's yes, you're absolutely 100% correct. But before that happens, you've got to before this is all said and done, there will be tens, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, dead in the Northern Hemisphere. Notice how all of the big wigs are beating it out to the Southern Hemisphere. Why do you think that is? Well, I mean, Bush and Paraguay, all the insiders, they know what's coming. They know that there's going to be a war of unrestrained war here in the Northern Hemisphere. They know all of this. So they're getting out of the way. They're the initiated ones. They don't care about you. You know, I really, I don't want to say I laugh. I guess I'm saddened. I'm pretty saddened by the people who believe in this right-left paradigm, who continue to adhere to this right-left paradigm. Oh, if we can only get through this midterm election. But you know, I do understand that mentality, because until recently, that's where I was. I mean, I felt we could change things through political elections and appointments. Look at Cantor, of course. But see, let's go back to Iraq for a second, because we need to talk about Iraq in the sense that this was designed to fail. Iraq was captured from within. I mean, you had people, individuals, leaders that walked away from their posts. So they were bought off. They were compromised, and allowed this terrorist group to overtake the arms depots that we didn't destroy or that we didn't take with us. They were captured from within. That's like saying they were a captured operation. What do you think's happening here in America? The same thing is happening here in America. So before this is all said and done, I mean, what you see taking place with the renegade in chief, his lack of action is, in fact, an action. Kerry, Clinton, Biden, they're the front people for all of this. And, of course, you've got the string pullers, the ones controlling the strings on these people. The people you don't hear about, the inner circle that we talked about earlier in the week, the very power structure as discussed by G. Edward Griffin, modeled after the Jesuit order, and of course the inner circle of the elect, and then the outer circle of the various round tables, and then the third outer circle, the front groups, the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group. And folks, for those who believe that the Bilderberg Group, who met, 2 weeks ago now, or 2.5 weeks ago now, who met there, for those who believe that there were orders or that they actually crafted policy, no, they were just read in on the policy. You see, a lot of people, I believe, put too much emphasis on the fact that they've got this power. No, it's not that they've got the power. They're just getting the information sooner in order for them to act upon it. Now, I'll tell you, all of this is designed to take down the United States. This is going to become very personal for each one of us. here in the United States, in Canada, in the West. This is going to become very personal to us all very quickly. When I say very quickly, I'm talking relative to the last 100 years versus the next 100 years. You're going to see this take place pretty quickly. You're going to see the taking out of the U.S. dollar, which has always been one of the objectives. The realignment, the geopolitical realignment of the Middle East, the power bases across the Middle East. This is what's taking place right now. But you would think, wouldn't you think, folks? I mean, each one of you listening to this program, you're intelligent enough. Intelligent, period. You know things are not as they're portrayed on the evening news or the morning news shows or the entertainment shows on the talk radio with talk radio people on the AM and FM dials. But why aren't people looking and seeing the bigger picture? They're off with their talking to W earlier today, with their mint juleps, and of course we're entering into the summer season, the hot days of summer in D.C. inside the Beltway. Do you think anything is going to get done? Of course not. But more importantly, and more to the point, why aren't the American people plugged in, or the people in the West plugged into the bigger picture? Are you? I mean, how can anyone with any degree of intellect really believe that this is all just happenstance? Oh well, we just kind of walked away. We made a decision to leave ISIS alone, or made a decision not to get involved or send troops to Iraq. That gave ISIS a green light. You don't think they're going to take us up on the green light? We're watching as this group is organizing and taking over Iraq. What did these men and women die for? Why did they leave? Why did they leave body parts in the sands of Iraq? What was that for? What was it all for? Is it worth it? I'm going to tell you something. If my wife or my son or daughter or mother or father, aunt, uncle was one of those who were killed or injured in the war effort in Iraq, I would be extremely angry right now. Very angry. Because what was accomplished? Could it be that the statement by Kissinger is really indeed true? That these military men are dumb, stupid cannon fodder? Oh, that says something, doesn't it? And what about the resignations and droves of people from the military? What happened in Iraq? Weren't there a lot of reassignments, resignations, people leaving? Of course. What's happening in America? The same thing. So where are we headed with all of this? This is just, we're talking about foreign policy right now. We're talking about Iraq. But right on the heels of all of this, of course, we've got this illegal immigrant invasion. And if you don't think that's planned, of course it's planned. With the blessings of the oh-so-precious Republicans, many of them, promise themselves. But the prize here, or the end result, is going to be, of course, killing the dollar and taking away the sovereignty of America, making America the pariah of the world, and we're well on our way. And I believe, folks, this is just my belief, and we can open it up to discussion, but I do believe that the powers, the real power behind the power, I believe that they're allowing Obama to take the fall. They're done with him. And if that's the case, what does that say about his future? Chaos? Chaos in every city? Chaos in the cities across the cities of America? Oh man. Yeah, I think that's possible. I really do. I believe that they're done with him. You know, it's interesting because today, Joe, that you and I were talking about this, Richard Rockefeller, the son of, is it the son of David or the son of John? Richard.
It is the son of, it's John D. Rockefeller's great-grandson, or great-grandson. Richard Rockefeller was killed in a plane crash.
Oh, Richard Rockefeller. Okay.
After attending his father's 99th birthday. Dr. Richard Rockefeller, the great-grandson of Standard Oil co-founder John D. Rockefeller, died Friday morning in a plane crash near Westchester County. It goes on to say he was the only person on board. He was the pilot. David Rockefeller, his father, turned 99 yesterday, and he was leaving. And his plane really didn't make it up too high and crashed.
Now, you might think that I'm ready for the loony bin, but how about that being a blood sacrifice? This
possible.
June
Friday
13th.
the 13th. You have and see, I don't know enough about blood sacrifices, but I do know that many who attain a certain level of fame seem to always have close people die tragically. A close person, a mother, a best friend. Whether it's a coincidence, whether it's a sacrifice to be famous. That's something that I don't think we'll be able to really prove in this life. We can speculate, we can have good ideas, we can seek the Lord for discernment and read the scriptures for understanding, but the true reasons behind these, whether it's accident or not, in this case, we just won't know. But the only question I have with that is, they, from what I understand, these elitists believe themselves to be royalty. They would not have to sacrifice themselves or their families.
Oh no, they certainly do, and sometimes, I mean, you have to realize these people are insane. They're
the products of the inbreeding that they hide in the castles and things. I can understand, but I don't know. It just, I guess, like I said, I had to do more research to the subject as a whole, and it's something interesting to think about. But yeah, I mean, but here we have. I mean, that's kind of an exclamation point on the end of a sentence here when we're talking about things taking place. Look, we've got just go to Drudge or a similar, or SteveQuayle.com Drudge report. Look at the headlines. Look at what's taking place in Iraq. I mean, you're having wholesale murders taking place, Christians being beheaded. Of course, Christians are in the crosshairs all over the world now, whether it's by speech or by law or by physical. Here, there's an article from just this evening, late afternoon. Iraq's vulnerable Christian further imperiled by jihadist advance. The startling gains made by jihadist fighters in Iraq are placing the region's already extremely vulnerable Christians in even greater peril. Christian advocacy groups are warning. While hundreds of thousands of Iraqis are affected by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant's takeover of key cities, including Nineveh, I can't read today.
It's all right. Don't read. Just
that these Christians, Christian denominations, there are many different. There's Assyrian, Syrian, Orthodox, American, evangelicals, and they're being beheaded. They're trying to flee. They're headed in the Kurdish region at the moment, to the northeast, is where they say that the most hope for safety is. But they go on to say that jihadists swept into Mosul this week and reportedly looted and torched churches, raising their back "There is no God but Allah" flags, and demanded that the woman wear Islamic veil. And there's another article here that there is medieval, this is a quote from the article, medieval Sharia law being imposed in the Nineveh province. And there was a document or a decree released from ISIS or Al-Qaeda or...
Let's just call it ISIS, yeah.
The New World Order.
And we know that Al-Qaeda really is a... And folks, you know this as well, and anyone who would deny this openly or question this openly would, to me, is disingenuous. But the fact of the matter is, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda specifically is a CIA creation. We know that, and I don't think that there can be really any rational argument against that. So, what we're seeing here, too, just the Al-Qaeda, the Islamic mindset, the Islamic ideology, now gaining nation-state level status via Iraq. And here's the interesting thing. Don't forget Iran, really, the mullahs of Iran are under Russian control. And you were going to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to play a quick clip from Joe Biden in 2010. Iraq will be one of the greatest achievements of the Obama administration.
And I think
I'm very optimistic about Iraq. I think it's going to be one of the great achievements of this administration. You're going to see 90,000 American troops come marching home by the end of the summer. You're going to see a stable government in Iraq that is actually moving toward a representative government. I've been there 17 times now. I go about every 2 months, 3 months.
Is that what I
know every one of the major players in all the segments of that society. It's impressed me. I've been impressed how they have been deciding to use the political process rather than guns to settle their differences.
Iran nuclear, worry?
A concern.
Insert foot in mouth.
Well, or
that's 4 years ago, but
perhaps this was and it's my contention, really in the bigger scheme of things, it's my contention, it's my assertion based on looking at the bigger picture that this was the intent all along, that our base of operation in Iraq would be ceded to the group ISIS. And again, remember that acronym and the significance of that acronym, because I do believe this has a very important role. I mean, the globalists are heavily involved in this Atlantean, pre-Adamic type of, or even historical in antiquity, the mythology of gods and of they believe, of course, they're descendants of gods, of the gods. So the bottom line here is the people who are really controlling the strings are looking at this in a much different fashion than the average person is. You and I, being average people, or let's just say the average person on the street, are looking at all of the events taking place across the Middle East and saying these are separate events. The Benghazi is not related to Syria. It's not related to Iraq. Libya is not related to anything. I mean, it's just out there. It's not related to the Arab Spring necessarily, although Gaddafi had to go. But why did Gaddafi have to go? You're looking at this great power shift, both economically and also ideology, or through the geopolitical realm as well. The economics, of course, is the killing off of the U.S. dollar. And don't forget, the only thing that's keeping the dollar afloat right now, almost literally in those words, is the free flow of oil and energy at reasonable market prices. So, how soon will that stop? Once the Islamic radical group or the terrorists that have been aided, and I say aided because that's exactly, if you don't do anything to stop, if you walk by someone who's getting the heck beat out of them and do nothing to stop it, don't even call 911 or whatever, as far as I'm concerned, you're complicit. If you see your neighbor's house, there's a little fire on the couch in the living room, and you don't call the fire department, or take steps to put it out, or take steps to get people out of that house.
Cook my hot dogs.
Yeah, well, that's Obama. So through Kerry gave the green light to the Islamic state of Iraq and Syria. And again, it's important that we keep it ISIS, not attempt to change it like Obama is. And notice how quickly, by the way, Wikipedia changes to accommodate the people, in power. But the fact of the matter is, this is all for show. This is all for entertainment. Our men and women, as far as I am concerned, in Iraq and Afghanistan have been nothing but cannon fodder. Have been used as cannon fodder, much like Kissinger had said, as reported by Woodward and Bernstein. So don't tell me I'm quoting some sort of conservative or neoconservative publication. It's Woodward and Bernstein quoting Kissinger, apparently in a conversation with Alexander Haig, where Kissinger referred to the
military men.
Yeah, exactly.
Military men being nothing but dumb, stupid animals to be used as foreign pawns and foreign or policy. No, you're absolutely right. And this has been, we're seeing the events come to fruition. We're seeing them play out. These events have been in the planning, have been planned for a long time. It is from my research, it is my understanding that in the dark shadows of the evil that has been on this earth, that America was, in a way, unknowingly to the people, probably unknowingly to many of these founders and people involved, was set up to bring about the true end of the world. Or at least that's what they intended from their own writings that I've read.
America and folks, America was designated as the new Atlantis that would lead the world to the Antichrist. Now, this is not saying that Obama is the Antichrist. I don't believe that for a moment. But the original nation, or our national bird, envisioned by the Masonic leadership back in the late 1700s, was not the American eagle, but the phoenix. This historical fact strongly suggests that at the right moment in time, with the world entering through the portals kingdom of the Antichrist, America might suddenly be immolated in fiery flames, perhaps burning to the ashes. Out of these ashes, the New World Order would arise. That's according to David Bay of Cutting Edge Ministries. Now, isn't it interesting that Manly Hall, a 33rd degree Freemason in the Secret Destiny of America, did say exactly what you just said, Joe, that the rise of the Christian church broke up the intellectual pattern of the classical pagan world by persecution of this pattern's ideologies that drove secret societies into greater secrecy. The pagan intellectuals then reclothed their original ideas in a garment of Christian type of ideology, but bestowed the keys of the symbolism only upon those duly initiated and bound to secrecy by their vows. That is, of course, those are the words of Manly P. Hall. So in other words, what we're seeing, what the question is, could the United States have been set up to generate this end of the world scenario or the Antichrist?
Absolutely. I mean, just from one publication I read from 1651, it talks about instituting the doctrine of politics, which set up really what we see today. You couldn't see it really back then, but a false choice, a false two-party system. You're picking.
That's right.
You think you're picking different people, but the greatest example, or one of a very good example of this was in the 2004 election when John Kerry ran against George Bush. They both, were in the same secret societies. They both were in the same social circles of the same handlers. They both served the same, ancient deities.
You're exactly correct, and we see isn't it interesting how the Skull and Bones, the 322 Club, the Bohemian Grove, all of these are now coming out. To me, I find it interesting that the stuff is coming out right now in this day and age. When I say now, I'm talking, and I know Alex Jones has been talking about this for many, many years, but to me, if you look at the timing of this, and Dr. Coleman before that, this devotion of the occult oligarchs have toward implementing a one world order through emerging uniform codes and laws, we'll say. They're attempting to enslave everybody on the planet to the wills, to the desires of the ruling elite. So there's a connection between, for example, the highest levels of Freemasonry, the Skull and Bone Society, in which George W. Bush is a member, and the knowledge that the Illuminati or the Mariah conquering wind, now that's the title by which occult insiders identify themselves. Well, all of this is quite notable. Mariah, by the way, just as a point of information, is an ancient term. Its connection to divine wind as a vehicle for God and angelic war is important to apocalyptic and mystical literature. So what we're seeing here is a political, financial, and religious initiative play out in Iraq, through Iraq, through Libya, through Syria, because Syria is the ultimate goal here. And that's going to pit the United States against Russia. That's going to pit the United States against Russia and China. And don't you read, for example, on places like Rogue Money and other such web forums that we are seeing now things take place economically that is putting the dollar, for example, putting our money, our toil into peril. By the way, Moriah is the sacred mountain on which Abraham went to sacrifice his son Isaac before the angel of God called out of the sky and stopped him. Moriah is also the location of the original Temple Mount in Jerusalem. When I refer to Moriah, the conquering wind, that's what I'm referring to in terms of the Illuminati. They're known as Moriah, Moriah conquering wind, but Moriah is named after, or that's what we're talking about here. That's what Moriah is referenced. We're talking about the Committee of 300, which has got, a 170-year history or so of intellectuals assembled to form this totalitarian, absolutely controlled new society. Except it's not new; it's old. It's the new old society. It's striving for a single world government, as described, for example, by H.G. Wells. This is an open conspiracy. This is plans for a world revolution, plain and simple. What you're seeing in Iraq is part of this larger theatrical stage production for that part of the world. And people really need to understand this. We're all of the players here, especially here in the United States and Great Britain and France and all of the NATO players. They are a part of setting this up. If you think we're losing Iraq, we mentioned Rockefeller dying in a plane crash. It's common knowledge among the elite that blood sacrifices do occur before something big happens. They'll sacrifice one of their own. Oftentimes, the number 3 or 13 is involved because of occult numerology. What do we have? This Rockefeller going on the Friday the 13th. But the fact of the matter is, I do believe that we could take this and look at this and say, well, wait a minute, maybe this is a sign of something to come, an omen. This presages something big about to happen over in the Iraq, whether it be the fall of Baghdad or whatever. But you had talked about the United States being set up to perhaps generate the final blows, the final chapter, generate the Antichrist. Don't forget, January 4th, 2007, that's when Nancy Pelosi assumed her role as Speaker of the House at the opening of the 110th Congress. And isn't it funny that she followed the exact pattern set up by George W. Bush and George Herbert Walker Bush by making mention about the New Order for the Centuries. Now, she didn't go into great detail in that speech as to why that she mentioned the New Order. It was just mentioned. It seemed kind of contextually awkward, but here we have, and again, if you look at what's going on in Iraq, you've got this United States, the symbol of which is an unfinished pyramid, and the all-seeing eye, the eye of who? Horus, or Cyrus, or Apollo. And it goes back to ISIS, because who is ISIS? Relative to Horus, or Apollo, or Osiris. And we're talking about the Great Seal of the United States in the first place, and we're talking about this self-immolation by the Phoenix. A lot of symbology here. Really. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this, the Friday the 13th day of June 2014. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my co-host, Joe Hagmann, getting into some pretty heavy analysis on what is taking place in Iraq. And we're going to be moving on.
We are talking about what is happening in Iraq. We were talking about what is happening in Iraq in the first hour. Also, we're expecting our intelligence insider W to call in and weigh in on and give us his take of what he understands. But we are waiting first for the main headline to get off of Drudge. W stays silent. And when I saw that headline, I said, Dad, screen capture that and send it to W.
Yeah, and actually what we did was we had to actually locate the bat phone and then use the bat signal to signal him and say, hey, is this true? Have you remained silent? Are you remaining silent? If so, why? But he said that he's got some things to do, and then of course he'll weigh in for a little bit. And let me issue a statement too, if I might, about our insiders, whether it be W as we refer to him, V as we refer to him, the individual that we
only need 24 more.
Yeah. Some. Well, I could. Absolutely. 24 more initials. And I'm mentioning W and V in particular, and also my source within the DHS, previous and present. Now, there's where it starts and ends. Those 4 individuals. When we deal with anonymous sources, and I want to be very clear on this, For example, V, W, semi-anonymous. I mean, you hear their voice. The DHS Insider, formerly known as Rosebud, and then, of course, my current DHS Insider, who I've even not named yet. They are not anonymous to us. Now, did you hear what I said? They're not. Did you drop like a watch or something, or what are you doing?
No, it was a penny. I don't know. It must have been in my book.
Okay. The fact of the matter is they're not anonymous to us. We know their bona fides. We know their credentials. We know their records. We know in some cases, we've either, well, in every case, I believe, we've met them face to face. We know who they are. Period. So V, W, the two DHS insiders that we're talking about, we have met them face to face and know exactly who they are, what positions they hold, what their bona fides are. Now, having said that, they're not anonymous to us. They're attempting to keep a relatively low profile, and I'm sure, that they're known within certain intelligence circles. Their identity is known, and I'm sure some of you might even know them. I know that a couple of people do know our intelligence insider, for example. But the fact of the matter is, they've been vetted. End of story. Anyone else has not been vetted, and they do not carry the same weight as those individuals I've mentioned. And I hope that's clear to people. I hope that's clear. I don't know how else to say
listening. I think I got what you said, but I caught it.
I know you weren't listening.
I'm
Clint, that's why I use this. Read on your own time.
No, I know. It's a book called The Life of Washington, and we're talking about the establishment of America.
That's right.
And
that's right.
The purposes behind it, and there's some pretty interesting things in here.
Well, actually, that does go to our topic tonight, and that's part of what you did isolate some interesting points about the founding of our country.
There is a admitted secret relationship between Great Britain and the U.S. even after its independence. Which, we always ask the question, what stopped the biggest military power from, overtaking America in the Revolutionary War? I do believe that America won the war, but, what stopped, the question is raised in this book, why weren't, they could have sent many more soldiers over to continue fighting until they won, but they didn't. And it says that, I believe his name is, what do they call him here? Lord something. He was the one of the heads of the Parliament of England or the UK or Great Britain,
right.
And Washington and him and George Washington, Lord Dunmore, and they were friends, and they had they called it they had a plan proposed by a noble patriotic sister colony of Virginia. They called England the mother country, or Great Britain the mother country.
Correct.
And they did from what it says in this book, they carried out all this legislative action to not purchase anything at one time from Great Britain or any imports or exports from Great Britain, to not be held under the authority of their laws. At the same time, saying, you promise the people this now, and when they're working, you'll be able to redo the revenue generating through taxation after they have their freedom.
That's right. And we have to understand, too, because this does relate to everything that we're seeing take place today. We're seeing as far as I'm concerned, what we're seeing is the final stages of this empire take place, this New World Order being set up. You're seeing the cast members being moved around in Iraq and throughout the I'll say the Levant, in the Middle East, that area, but this is designed to usher in the caliphate, at least in terms of the Islamic mindset or their belief, and belief at times is a driver of action, and belief also, I say this quite frequently. It doesn't matter what you believe. If you believe this, it matters what they believe, because their belief is the driver of their actions.
Yeah, and they set up Washington set up a league and a covenant, as it says in here, with united interests that were held confident, and to him and the other people that were involved in this. And it says the very title of the league and covenant had an ominous sound and startled General Gage. And General Thomas Gage was the military commander of Massachusetts, the state of Massachusetts at the time. And we're here in the time period, just in case people are curious. I believe it was 1773.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because
maybe it could. This is a very old book. I'm going to have to do some digging on the wording, because it could be, with today's English, how dumbed down we are.
Well,
I could be reading into things that aren't there, but
one thing we know is respected historians have looked upon America and Washington. You're talking about George Washington, and I'm going to bring this back around to Iraq and what's going on, taking place, including the economy as well. But looking at this together, if you look at the historical associations between American occult politics, the city of Washington, the founding fathers, which by and large were men of character and integrity, but you've got the associations later with things like Freemasonry and Rosicrucians. Okay.
Big time. And this General Thomas Gage, he says, America. His opinion on America, where he wrote this: the Americas, he said to the king, will be lions only as long as the English are lambs.
Right, and now, and this is important because look at the role Great Britain, the English, the United Kingdom is playing in the world affairs, in particular, being a part and parcel to America as we progress down this path of unrighteousness in Iraq, and how we are being set up for the slaughter. Who's going to save us, or appear to save us, is going to be the United Kingdom. And where's the monetary system going to arise from the ashes from? It's going to be the City of London. And who's going to superintend that? Some say the Vatican, others say, but the ultimate power will be from the City of London. But when you mentioned Washington, it's interesting because, we've got our capital city in the U.S. named after America's first president, George Washington, according to what many historians believe to be an occult grand design. And this is a growing body of historians and researchers that are coming around to this conclusion. And in fact, one, David Oveson, I believe his name, who became a Freemason after writing the secret architecture of our nation's capital, the Masons, another building of Washington, D.C. Well, he says that the city's layout intentionally incorporated the esoteric belief system of Freemasonry. Okay, now why is this important to what's going on today? Well, hang on a second. I'm getting to that. Because if you look at the way Washington is laid out, it involved astrological alignment, aligning the capital with the constellation Virgo. Now, you might say, okay, so what? What does that mean? Who cares? Well, in my research today, it's interesting because ISIS is associated with the constellation Virgo. And she's associated with the planet Venus. But the fact of the matter is, you've got this Isis connection to Virgo, astrologically aligning the capital with Isis itself, or herself, Virgo, that is. So in 1793, when Washington himself, as your book does lay out there, as you just mentioned, sanctioned the laying of the Capitol building's cornerstone, he did so, by the way, wearing a Masonic apron with the Brotherhood symbols and such. And now Manly P. Hall said this made perfect sense. And you go back to Francis Bacon, his vision of the New Atlantis, a very prophetic dream of the great civilization, which is to rise this new world. There's no doubt that the secret societies, they have conspired to establish this new Atlantis on the American continent. And again, this all connects to these mythical gods, including but not limited to ISIS, and ISIS is that acronym for that Islamic group that's overtaking Iraq at this point. So is this all just one big muddled coincidence that doesn't make any sense? Not if you start looking at this, not if you start researching this and digging deep into it. This was set up right from the beginning. Look at just go to Washington D.C. or pick up a book. Pick up Apollyon Rising, for example, 2012 by Tom Hall. It explains, or by Tom Horner. It explains everything that we're talking about here. But the ultimate goal, and this is so important to understand, the ultimate goal of what we're seeing taking place in Iraq is the destabilizing of Syria. That's next. That's coming. That's going to pave the way to World War III, pitting the U.S. against Russia. The collateral, or the intended damage, is going to be the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency, and from that you're going to have three outgrowths. You're going to have the political reign of the one world order, the monetary, and the religious. Now, we're already seeing the religious thing taking place here with the combining and convoluting of Christianity and Islam by some of the mega pastors.
And let me read a sentence out of a letter from Washington. He says, "I beg leave to look upon you as a friend, and a great relief to unbosom one's thoughts to a friend. Besides, the information and the correction of my errors which I may obtain from correspondence are great indictments to it. For I am convinced that no man in the colony wishes prosperity more, would go to greater lengths to serve it, or is at the same time a better subject to the crown. Pray excuse these compliments; they may be tolerable from a friend." Now, what is he saying here? Is he saying that no one in wishes prosperity for the colonies more than him, or goes to greater lengths to serve it, at the same time be a better subject to the crown?
All right. No.
You're muted.
Yeah, I know. It is. Hold on. Now think about that in terms of when Obama was stopped in Perm, when he did not have, or when allegedly the KGB stopped him and the Lugar delegation back before he became, well, he was still a junior senator from Illinois, when they were looking at the disarmament of Russian missiles. And what was said there, why Obama was stopped, because his passport was not in order. And in fact, there was discussion that Obama was in fact a British subject. And this goes back to the eligibility issue, the constitutional eligibility issue, which is why there's been no day in court. And, it's funny because how one thing leads to another. People seem to think that, the eligibility issue, it's dead. No, it's not. People think that the eligibility issue was proven in some court somewhere to be a moot point. No, it was never heard in court, any court, anywhere in America. So who or to what country is Obama allied with? Where does his allegiance lie? Where does his citizenship lie? What would happen if we found out that Obama was a product of the CIA? But we'll say even different. Well, I'll say it even differently. What would happen if we found out that Obama was a KGB agent or a secret Saudi agent in disguise? I don't believe he is, but think about that. We don't know for a fact. I mean, he could be, couldn't he? We don't know. Would that make a difference? Of course it would. But see, we were told right from the onset. Wow. We were told right from the onset that Obama was in fact, or that the constitutional eligibility issue was a dead issue and a distraction. Well, at what point do we stop distractions? Or at what point do we determine that things are distractions versus real issues? Is Iraq a distraction? Is our economic woes, are they distractions?
Listen to this. While Washington was journeying to the approach for the meeting of the General Congress at Philadelphia, Washington was joined at Mount Vernon by Patrick Henry, Edmund Pendleton, and they performed the journey together on horseback. Henry, it goes on to describe this Henry and Pendleton, and it says, Washington, in the meridian of his days, mature in wisdom, comprehensive in mind and foresight, such were the apostles of liberty, repairing on their august pilgrimage to Philadelphia from all parts of the land to lay the foundations of a mighty empire. May we say of that eventful period, there were giants in those days. And those are in quotes.
There were giants in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's very interesting. And speaking of giants, by the way, what did we take from Iraq? Steve Quayle talked about this. Tom Horn talked about this. The antiquities that we had taken from Iraq during the first Gulf War, and of course subsequent to that. All of this does connect. To me, anyway, all of this does connect. And people have sent emails asking why we're strong on the Bible, on Scripture, on scriptural, on our scriptural presence, and I want to thank the people who sent emails in saying, "Hey, don't waver from that." Well, if we look back at the early traces of corruption, and we look at how things play out with evidence suggesting that the earliest legends of mythology were part of the establishment of our country, and how things were laid out from the beginning, we can see that this does have context in current events. So all of this, and going back once again to what we're seeing with ISIS, the spiritual warfare as well, and what you just mentioned about giants. Wasn't there something about Gilgamesh?
And yeah, you remember the stories of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, how there were a few speeches given where men never came down. They don't know who gave the speeches. Nobody ever came forward. And
talking about?
It says when this happened.
When what? What do you?
There was these speeches given of motivation before anybody signed the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
And it says the superior powers of these great men, however, were manifest only in debate while the grievances were in topic. When they were called down from the heights of the declamation to tests of intellectual excellence to the details of business, they found themselves completely thrown into the shade. It goes on to say that the committee of two people were not fine. Therefore, the first orator of America.
Why don't you get yourself a light over there?
Okay. This is from the book Writ's Life of Patrick Henry.
Okay.
And it's talking about, this was the first meeting which got people to sign their life, liberty, property, put everything on the line. But there was speeches given, motivational speeches given, that when the person was called down who gave the speech to come down, nobody owned up to giving the motivational speech, which is interesting.
Interesting
And
indeed.
there's the same story about oh goodness, it wasn't the creator of the flag. I think the Star Spangled Banner, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not exactly certain, but what we're seeing here is.
I'm sorry for jumping around. I'm going to put this book down.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I before the show I said I was going to go on strike today and protest in silence for the show, and I guess I shouldn't have started reading that book. I apologize. And we're still waiting for W to call in.
Yeah, he's going to be calling in here shortly. But getting back to what's taking place, and this is kind of a crazy Friday as we've been really pounding it out. And don't forget, folks, Monday, and I have to verify this, but Monday, 99.9% sure Stuart Rhodes from the Oath Keepers is going to be our guest. On Tuesday, of course, Stan Dale. Wednesday, the Economic Insider, along with W, going to be joining him. They're going to be having a dialogue about both Iraq as well as the U.S. dollar and how everything connects. See, folks, thanks for tuning in. That's all I can say is thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being who you are. Meeting people at the Whitestone Conference who listen. I was so impressed by the quality, by the quality of the people I met, and I know that that's a representation of everyone listening. But I'm looking here at various supposed intellectual pieces, and no one is connecting the dots between, for example, Iraq and Syria. No one's connecting the dots between Iraq, Syria, Israel, and Iran, or Russia and China and Iraq and what's taking place. No one's seeing the bigger picture. Everyone is treating like it's happening in the vacuum, and people are saying that essentially this is nothing more than just a really unfortunate, unforeseeable, or unavoidable type of incident with Iraq. No, it's not. No more than Vietnam was, and I'm surprised I haven't heard anything from Jane Fonda of late with respect to Baghdad, because Baghdad will, I suspect, fall shortly. And Obama could do things should he desire, but the fact of the matter is he doesn't. He wants ISIS to be to gain nation-state level, to go after Syria. When Syria falls, there we will have Russia, China, and, of course, the attack on the dollar, because we will be unable to ensure the proper the flow of oil and energy at reasonable market prices. That's the end game scenario. And, of course, we're going to have to be blamed for this. The U.S. will have to be blamed for this, and perhaps rightfully so. Obama right now is being offered up as a sacrificial lamb. I believe, based on my information, that the Bilderberger meeting said, hey, go ahead, let loose on Obama. Put him up. He's done. He's over. We're done with him. I believe that the Bilderberg meeting was not for, again, I'm repeating myself, was not for making policy, but for reading in on policy already made by the people above in the inner circle, in the select circle. And now we move to the more domestic part, because you see chaos is everywhere, and it's intended to be such. If you look at what's happening here domestically, all is well. No, all is not well. What do we have going on here with the illegal alien invasion? Did these people just suddenly walk by themselves? Something happened in Central American countries to get these people just to suddenly arrive in the United States in droves? No, this is the Cloward Piven strategy that's in play. This is more, and I heard it today. In fact, I heard it today on a Patriot radio station on Sirius XM. Borrowed a friend's car, and he had it on Sirius XM, so I changed it to the Patriot channel. And I heard it when I was running some errands, and they were saying that this is all about voting demographics. No, it's not all about voting demographics. Of course it's not. It's bigger than that. People aren't seeing the bigger picture. And even the bigger picture is this is about overtaxing the system. This is about taking and not just stressing America, but destroying America, the fabric of America, all aspects of America. Cloward Piven strategy. These decisions are made at a higher level, and of course Mexico and other Central American countries are following orders from the globalists to do this. The Committee of 300, the inner circle, people within the inner sanctum, as Cecil Rhodes had discussed. Edward Griffin had talked about in his lecture about the Quigley formula, talking about Cecil Rhodes. Everyone thinks of the Rhodes Scholarship as such a great thing, and Bill Clinton being a Rhodes Scholar. Oh, my goodness, there can't be anything more than that. Oh, really? Well, you've got to... Who do you pledge your allegiance to be a Rhodes Scholar? Is it the United States? Is it to your God? No. Is it to God? No. It's to the crown, the British crown. And who's going to fill in the void when America falls? It's going to be the British crown. And that leads me to this. Now, this is pure informed speculation on my part, but wouldn't it be something? You know, people are looking for the Antichrist, the final, the man, to come from some sort of Middle East type of location or Middle East location. But if you follow the bloodlines and understand the bloodlines, it would make more sense that you've got the Antichrist coming out of the British royalty right now, as we speak. But all of this together, you know, all of this together is, and I find it funny, or not funny, but I find it interesting that you've got George H.W. Bush. By the way, George H.W. Bush, and W can talk about this as well. His thing about skydiving. You know, what did the Queen do at the Olympics? She dove in, or a facsimile of the Queen, a stand-in for the Queen, came in by parachute at the 2012 London Olympics. Why? Well, because they're coming to Earth. That's symbolizing them falling to Earth. And we are, of course, in a Planet of the Apes scenario. We are the apes. You've got to understand the program. Nathan Leal talks about this. So that's what's going on there. And George H.W. Bush, his affinity toward skydiving. Oh, that's just a cutesy thing at 88, 90 years old to be skydiving. It's really not meaningless, or it's really not meaningful. That's just a hobby. Well, couldn't it be symbology? This wink, wink, nod, nod type thing on the Special Insiders Club? Yeah, look, I realize that you could say, my goodness, you're really pushing the envelope here, Doug. But when you start seeing things add up that, you know, they continue to add up, you have to start asking yourself, can this all be coincidence? Can this all just be things that really are meaningless? No, I believe that there's this Insiders Club. Even George Carlin believed that, although he's more crass about it than I am. He believed about the Insiders Club, and he spoke about it. And, of course, we're not in it. So, but so what? In the end, so what? At the end of the day, what does this all mean? So what? Well, at the end of the day, we're looking at the creation of a one-world governance through Iraq, through what's taking place in Iraq, taking out the U.S. dollar, and through the Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, consolidating all of the personal information, against or on us and our children and our children's children for the purposes of what? For health care? No, for two reasons. Number one, to destroy 1/6 of the nation's economy, which has already happened. Even if we walked Obamacare, people are yelling, repeal Obamacare. Do you think for one moment that if that did happen, we can reconstruct what we had before? Of course not. It's already been, no, we're too far down the road. And the Democrats, Republicans have allowed this to happen. It doesn't matter. It transcends politics. You're talking about a globalist agenda, NAFTA, GATT, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is going on right now. All of this. And, oh, by the way, the invasion of the alien children into America, what do you think that's going to end up? How do you think that's going to play out ultimately if it continues? Biden's already calling more in. If it continues, where's it going? Well, ultimately, you're going to have this merging, this melding of Mexico, U.S., and Canada. Well, how can that be? Why would that be? Because we're losing our national identities, whether through trade, whether through the erosion of our borders, our southern border, or through trade on our northern border, and other things going on. We're losing our sovereignty, and so are the other countries. Do you think that Canada is really excited about coming into a North American Union? The people of Canada, of course not. No more than Americans are excited about this. So all of this ties together. But if people think that Bush is keeping quiet, for example, just to be what would you call that? Ethical, as an ex-president, about what's taking place right now? No. To me, silence is complicity. Silence is consent.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. And if we can, I would like to move on to a few other subjects that are important real quick if we can. I'm going to start with this audio. The React, Pentagon giving U.S. police hefty armored utility trucks. Sunday.
Well, surplus military trucks are getting a new lease on life. The Pentagon giving away thousands of the armored vehicles to police forces across the country. But some critics say this is the last thing local law enforcement needs. Jonathan Sari, live in Atlanta. So give us the details on this one, Jonathan.
Hi, Arthel. Well, it's equipment the military no longer needs, now being offered to trusted allies overseas, but also for police use right here on American soil. As wars in Iraq and Afghanistan wind down, surplus military equipment designed for the battlefield is going to local police departments, including hundreds of MRAPs, mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles.
Whenever we go out on high-risk warrants, if a situation goes bad, our officers can get into it. They have cover, and it won't be shot.
For the sheriff's office in Florence, South Carolina, acquiring this MRAP was a no-brainer. It didn't cost them a dime.
And if local law enforcement can use them, it's a benefit to the taxpayer. They don't have to go out and buy like capability, and they're able to benefit from what the government no longer needs.
But the military transfer program also has its critics who say the equipment is over.
Okay, that was cut short for some reason, but the sheriff says cops need more MRAP war vehicles because America is a war zone. This from the Mind+Times. An Indiana sheriff justified his department's purchase of a mine-resistant ambush-protected MRAP military vehicle because the United States of America has become a war zone. Indiana is not the only place where they the military has recently given local police departments MRAPs. You have just in the last few months, High Springs, Florida, Lewisburg, Tennessee, Missouri, New Mexico, Ohio State, Madison, Indiana, Connecticut, Justice, Illinois, Roanoke, Rapid, North Carolina, Michigan, and you're talking about a number of vehicles. And these towns I all listed are under populations of 30,000. There was over 432 MRAPs that have been given out so far, and the Pentagon plans to give out another 13,000.
Absolutely.
Municipalities.
Yeah. Pentagon's giving away, and folks, think about this for a moment. Pentagon giving away 13,000 MRAPs, or armored trucks. The vehicles cost, about $500,000 new. Think about that. Now, they say they've outlived their purpose, and of course, defense contractors are they're a little bit up in arms about this. But why? Even the most, folks, even the most hardened of your family members should give pause to them. And if you're in a city where you see an MRAP or one of these heavily armored vehicles with police driving down your street, is this what we have come to in this country?
And that's not the most disturbing news coming out of the Pentagon today. Pentagon studying protesters to prep for mass civil breakdown. The Department of Defense has dispersed some funds to universities that scientists might study the dynamics of civil unrest and how the U.S. military might best respond. It's called the Minerva Research Initiative. It is a program that was kicked off in 2008 to improve DoD basic understanding of social, cultural, behavior, and political forces that shape regions of the world's strategic importance to the U.S. And the article goes on from there. I'll post it in the chat room. It's called, the title of the article for those who are listening via archive, Pentagon studying protesters to prep for mass civil breakdown.
Well, now what's the date on that article?
Today.
Okay. Folks, I want to take you back to August 26th, 2013. And you can feel free to look this up. Pentagon prepping for, quote, large-scale economic breakdown. And this is a story by Anthony Gucciardi, dated August 26, 2013, updated, that was actually filed on August 26, 2013. High-level government documents reveal that the Pentagon is preparing in full force for large-scale economic meltdown and massive revolt via the U.S. public.
Right on the money. And in this article, in the last, and Aaron Fitzgerald, a key program manager with the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School, said that by better understanding these conflicts and their causes beforehand, the Department of Defense can better prepare for the dynamic future security environment. Meaning, in his statement, it's almost a foregone conclusion.
Well, exactly. And it's interesting to go back into time and look at things that we've talked about, but people have said, "Oh, well, that's just fear mongering. That's just BS. That's no. I'll tell you something. The military is, in fact, a DoD report discusses how the Defense Department would be forced by circumstances to come in and stop. I'm going to quote here: purposeful domestic resistance or insurgency. Now, I'm going to pull a quote from this real quick here. The DoD might be forced by circumstances to put its broad resources at the disposal of civil authorities to contain and reverse violent threats to domestic tranquility. Oh, that'll work. Yeah. Under the most extreme circumstances, this might include use of military force against hostile groups inside the United States. Well, hey, Pentagon, what about Jamaat al-Fuqra, the Muslims of the Americas that are all throughout the United States that we've investigated and others have written about and, of course, used our investigative information, which and expanded upon it in ways that are not exactly true. But the fact of the matter is, the Muslims of the Americas is a paramilitary organization led by Sheikh Mubarak Ali Jalani, who has a personal vendetta against me for releasing the information I did to the Department of Justice back in 2005. And that's on his website, where he names me as the cause of every ill from anti-Semitism to gosh, you name it, to the starting of World War III. But the Department of Defense would be by necessity an essential enabling hub for continuity of political authority in a multi-state or national civil conflict or disturbance. So what they're saying here, this is back in 2013, August, and again now they're putting their money or assets where their pins were. Now they said we need to prepare for this. Now they are preparing for this, but for what? To what end? Are we going to have bloodshed on the street? Are we going to have military assets? Of course we are. We do already, but more. So what are they expecting? Are they doing this just because drugs are so bad? No. They're doing this because there is something in the works. And you know, it gets me sometimes, whether it's Charles Krauthammer, whether it's George Will or Britt Hume or Chris Wallace, I'm trying to think of other people that are these intellectual journalists who sit there at round tables and scoff and say, "Oh, this is just nothing more than they poo-poo this information. This is nothing more than hyperbole." Well, is this hyperbole from the Department of Defense when you've got an MRAP crawling up your butt on Main Street, USA, and a guy with paramilitary or military soldier manning the turret? What do you say then? Why aren't the people like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, and everyone at Fox News who are supposedly on our side, why in the hell aren't they talking about this? Everything is, yeah, we're okay. We're going to go along to get along. Everything is fine. Oh, we've got problems with Democrats. No, you've got problems with globalists. You've got problems with the people that want to subjugate you and well, maybe not you personally. Maybe you've worked out a deal with them, but us, the normal people, we're going to be making the Nike shoes and we're going to be the cheap labor for the Chinese when they come in and take over and continue to take over our property, our land, our resources, because of the Ponzi scheme that is the Federal Reserve. And for those people, again, and I say this often, for those people who think that the solution of the Federal Reserve in place of a larger global economic system is the answer, you're fools. You're idiots. Sorry, but I don't know how else to tell you. If you celebrate that, you're foolish. Because what's coming is going to be far worse. Because the totalitarian state that is coming is going to be built on the communist totalitarian system.
Absolutely right. And a few more pieces of news as we close out this hour or second hour, going into the third, where if W doesn't call in, we will take phone calls. We have...
I got the bat phone, the bat signal. He's calling.
Okay. This from Breitbart. Border Patrol agents threatened with criminal charges for speaking to reporters. That's interesting. A surge of thousands of illegal immigrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border has left federal resources and facilities overwhelmed. Most of new immigrants are children from Central America. In the aftermath of Breitbart, Texas, releasing photos showing minors warehoused in crowded U.S. cells, Border Patrol agents in Texas have been instructed not to speak to media outlets.
No, wait a second.
Or face criminal charges.
Who's been instructed?
Border Patrol agents. Also, there's an immigration facility. The Obama administration has forbidden lawmakers or anybody from taking photos of this illegal immigration facility. The Department of Health and Human Services is welcoming members of Congress and their senior staff to tour a temporary shelter being used to house illegal immigrant children, but the invite comes with a list of rules, including the suggestion that members leave their cell phones in their vehicles. A 40-minute tour will take place today at the Ventura County Naval Base in Oxnard, California, according to an email invitation obtained by the Daily Caller. They will give members and staffers an inside look at how temporary facilities are being used to house illegal immigrant children who came to the U.S. without their parents. But it goes on to say the rules of entering here, given by Health and Human Services, no recording devices will be allowed, no questioning will be allowed during the tour, but questions will be addressed later. No interacting with staff and children at the shelter. We will provide photos of the facility after the tour. During the tour guide will detail what goes on from room to room and services youth are provided on a daily basis. One congressional staffer invited to tour the facility called the planned tours a dog and pony show. And it says, this isn't some totalitarian closed society trying this tactic. This is our own government. They clearly won't be offering up this kind of dog and pony show if they weren't hiding a very ugly truth somewhere.
So what we've got, just to summarize, folks, is we've got the government telling government agents, as well as, does this extend to others? I mean, I suppose others would not be in the position to be able to take photographs necessarily, correct? I mean,
this is interesting. There was documents that were leaked about what Department of Homeland Security and FEMA are doing with the children housed here. They call these children the unaccompanied children. Well, I can't talk.
You'll get it. That's all right.
It is a shelter, and it's this document. FEMA is coordinating an effort which is being called a humanitarian situation. There are currently 2,785 unaccompanied children in the U.S., and it goes on to say that in these documents they have set up. You know, when we went to see those terrorist training camps, how they had like these obstacle courses and things like that?
Yeah.
Well, the Department of Homeland Security is involved in this. Under its umbrella, the Customs and Border Patrol Immigration Enforcement were caught on their heels when these children entered, it says. But after their arrival, the child is identified, undergoes a health screening, an immigration process to initiate removal proceedings. From there, they're transferred to a short-term multi-agency center, further inspected by Health and Human Services. They are assigned a shelter. Transportation is provided by Department of Homeland Security. A sponsor is given through the U.S. immigration process.
They knew. Look, the federal government knew far in advance. This was, once again, the Cloward Piven move on steroids to bring in illegal immigrants, children into this country. But let's go back in history.
You remember the
Operation Garden Plot, Rex 84.
Yeah, the Obama civilian army.
Correct. All of this. Look, go back to folks. Go back. All you have to do, and again, for the doubters out there that you folks have to deal with, that we have to deal with, that we do deal with, search Operation Garden Plot. You'll find the PDF online. That was just one of a number of plans put in place by the government back in the late 1960s, early 70s.
The Department of Health and Human Services is housing almost 6,000 of these children throughout the country at different facilities right now.
Okay.
What they say?
And this is a start. What, according to the intelligence I have from D.C. inside the Beltway, is you can expect that number to triple. And by the way, the number that you're being given, folks, is not an accurate number. It's
that's
much higher.
From what I even heard from other mainstream media reports, that's less than 10% of what they're reporting. They said somewhere to 50 to 60,000 just this year of children.
Oh, just this year? Yes, of course. But we're talking about I got you. So you're looking at really this incredible number, and Biden is just waving them on in. Come on in. The water is fine. What is this? This is not even the balkanization anymore of America. This is the entire destruction of this country. It is by design and by definition the renegade in chief. Once again, a new rule for callers of the Hagmann and the Hagmann Report. The Obama is not commander in chief, but the renegade in chief. Hey, if the Secret Service can call him that, We can call them that. Folks, you're listening to a special Friday the 13th edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. It is Friday, June 13th, 2014. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me in studio is Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Folks, if you have a father out there, if you're the wife of a man who's a father, if you give him a hug. And if you do nothing else, just tell him you love him. That's all.
And we should all pray. We should all pray for those fathers out there that are still alive and kicking. And
that's right.
Some of them are here in America. Some of them, as I'm reading these reports coming out of Iraq, you have thousands of soldiers captured. Whether those are, I think, Iraqi soldiers. You have
Iraqi
the headline, 200 American contractors surrounded. There's a lot of chaos and uncertainty in this world, and we need to take the advantage of every moment we have in relative peace and safety.
Because, folks, that peace and safety, the world as you know it, and I'm not trying to scare you, and I'm not trying to be hyping you up, but the world as you know it is going to change. You're going to wake up and it's going to be different.
And that's the truth. And if people are scared by it, then that's something that they need to come to terms with. We're told, after we have seen an enlightenment, so to speak, that the world will continue to get darker. The worst of times are coming. Nevertheless, we have the Lord to depend on, so we'll never be left without. But it will come and it will get worse.
Edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We're getting reports of no sound on BTR. If we have a representative from BTR listening to this, please check into the fact that there's no sound.
People are saying after they refreshed that they got sound back. I don't know if that was a temporary glitch or what, but this is the second time this week.
Right.
Actually, third time. There was two one day, and I think it was Wednesday. And then today being the second day. But people in chat are saying sound back, use the default player, refresh, go to CUBN, Christians United Broadcasting Network.
Stand on your head, adjust your rabbit ears. I mean, seriously? Is this what we've got to do?
Hey, can you guys in the chat, when did it cut off? Did it cut off during the commercials? Or let me know when that happened. I appreciate it. That booted you guys to a previous program. Yeah.
That's interesting.
A BTR representative, when dealing with the sound issues Wednesday night, said they had the same issue happen to them. So they were kind of intrigued by that. Didn't quite understand how that happened. 2 minutes before the commercial. Okay, thank you. Just before the commercial. Cut off mid-sentence.
It's interesting. I have often said, and I've said this, World War III will begin in Syria. And I don't know. I got about 3 or 4 emails about this. World War II will begin in Babylon, not Libya.
World War II?
World War III. Did I say 2?
Yeah.
Okay. On the August 2nd, 2011 edition of the Glenn Beck radio program, he began some sort of postulation that World War III would begin in Libya.
We can agree that it began in the Middle
already
East.
Begun. Yes. Well, I think
where it all started.
But I think it's all. I think it's important for everyone to understand that World War III is well on its way. This is equivalent to 1937 Germany, if you were living at that time and aware at that time, which would make you kind of old. But hey, that's okay.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that for people who didn't understand how the cash paper money backed by nothing. What it looks like when it crashes. Research the Weimar Republic.
Yep. Well, especially for the dollar collapse.
Yeah, you can find videos on YouTube of families. They couldn't wheelbarrow enough money to the stores to get bread or water. They would use it as fire material, wallpaper. It would be like Monopoly money to us today. It was given to children to play with. It was lined the streets.
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't give it away.
But it's so important, folks, for everyone to be prepared and start becoming prepared, because honestly, we don't know when our last program is going to be, or if we're going to have another year, another 2 years. Wouldn't that be nice? Another 2 months. I mean, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, things are getting pretty dicey. Things are dicey over in the Middle East, and we lacking a presence, and of course, thereby taking away the stability of our military. This done deliberately by the globalists, by both sides, by the ever so tan John Bonnier to the ever so tan renegade in chief. This transcends political parties. This is a globalist agenda, and it's my view, based on all of the information, that as Putin even said, World War III is going to start in Syria. It's interesting as well, the Glenn Beck aspect of things. I don't know. I don't know where he's coming from anymore. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like to cause problems.
Not at all.
But there is, and it has always been, a side that I don't know. It's as W said it best. The best disinformation is full of truth.
Well, it's very true. We are waiting. I've got the bat signal on high, so I would like to get a W's take on the current events in Iraq.
Well, we want W, not Batman. So.
Well, he responds to the bat signal.
You have to get that headline off, Dredge.
Yeah, he's remaining silent. W's remaining silent. It might have confused him. I'm not sure.
It's that ego of his, huh?
Yeah. Obama, again, he's ramping up the destruction of America, and if you come across anyone who's not concerned about what's going on in this country right now, or if you come across anybody who's in denial, boy, I'll tell you, I know people who are in denial. It's not that bad. We can still get our Starbucks and pizza, and we can still go to the ATM and grocery stores. You can for right now. But there are going to be 3 areas of disruption that we're going to experience, folks. 3 areas. Right, supply disruptions at the grocery stores. The supply disruptions at the gas stations. That is, if you can get gas. And the 3rd area is going to be at the banks. Mark those down. 3 areas: banks, grocery stores, and gas.
Or if you're a normal person, you can remember them.
That's true. Yeah.
No,
I have to write them down.
No,
but
it is good to write them down.
But I'm telling you, this is, and I would say within the next 18 months. I don't want to set dates, but just by the rapidity of or how rapid things are progressing, I would say that this is what we're looking at. Look, the headlines are coming so fast. Whatever happened to the veterans, the VA scandal, the VA crime, the hundreds, if not thousands, of men and women veterans who died waiting for treatment, kept on waiting lists. They waited an average of 115 days for initial primary care. An audit by the Department of Veterans Affairs revealed that VA medical centers nationwide lied. They lied about their patient scheduling. And this involved over 50,000 former military personnel. Another 64+ thousand weren't even on their electronic waiting list. You've got over 113,000 veterans that we just tossed to the curb. And this renegade in chief deliberately covered up this crime. He had this renegade in chief had conspicuously promised to clean up the VA back 5 years ago? That never happened. He realized that the VA could be seen as a microcosm of the Affordable Care Act is Obamacare, and expose, let's just use the VA as the beta test for what's taking place. This is how we treat our veterans. When we're not mistreating them on the VA line, we're throwing them into the lists of domestic extremists. Of course, that is if they come back in whole. This is incredible, and we're allowing Iraq, the ISIS group, capturing, taking over every major city, including now, I do suspect within the next 72 hours, 3 days, considering the blood sacrifice, blood sacrifice of Rockefeller. Not a nice guy by any stretch of the imagination, but having said that, Richard Rockefeller, Dr. Richard Rockefeller, he taught medicine in Portland, Maine from 82 until 2000, dead from a plane crash. There's always a blood sacrifice. Always a blood sacrifice. Folks, what we're seeing is absolutely incredible. And we're seeing headlines being pushed off the front page with such acceleration. We've never saw this before. We're getting close to, I think, that and Steve Quayle talks about this too, that the realization that there's lawlessness. Oh, how fitting, renegade lawlessness. That there's lawlessness in this regime. I won't even call it an administration. They're guilty of murder, not merely incompetence, not merely, no, they're guilty of murder. And you know what? For not speaking out against this, George W. Bush, you might as well be called an accomplice. You might as well be called complicit. You might as well be. I mean, you are.
Thank you.
I mean, you led this up. You led us to this. George H.W. Bush. You see, it's all the skull and bones. It's all the secret societies. That's what this is. It's all the royalty, the inner circle, as I said. Oh man, this is just incredible.
Beyond that, it's the devil's plan. The devil's plan is well methodically thought out, slow, subtle, deceitful plan since the Garden of Eden.
That's right. And we do have an attack. I mean, all of this is to everything that we're seeing happen right now is happening. We'll just go back to Iraq for a second. We're seeing Plan B here. Originally, they wanted to put an air cap over NATO. They wanted to go in through the west, not the southeast. They wanted to do the air cap, blame the chemical weapons attack on Assad. But what happened was what? They couldn't. So now Kerry in December went through the Middle East, gave ISIS a green light, a thumbs up, saying we're not going to intervene, do what you will, do what thy wilt, or whilst, or whatever the word might be. But the fact of the matter is, they just gave ISIS the step out of the way, gave them the arms. We're arming, we armed ISIS, we armed Al-Qaeda, and Congress does nothing. So those people who are waiting for the election and midterm election, God bless you. If you think it's going to help, God bless you, because it's not going to. And as far as Biden is concerned, well, Biden is Biden. You heard him on an earlier sound clip, folks, saying the greatest accomplishment by this administration was Iraq. Well, if you've got the Muslim Brotherhood inside your organization, perhaps that's correct, especially it's even more correct today, isn't it? Because of the Islamic Caliphate that's being structured over there in that region. So anyway, so we're waiting for our intelligence insider to call in, folks.
Let's take some call in, guys. And,
you give us a call 661-244-9839. It's a Friday. It's the 13th. It's the 2 days before the Hallmark holiday of Father's Day. But if you do have a father that's still alive, give him a hug, cherish him. You know, I lost my dad to cancer, and I watched him suffer greatly, and I watched, and he took care of me. You know, I mean, he was a great dad. So
I know I was old enough to remember that.
Yeah. So folks, I mean,
you feel cheated because you didn't. You know, when you're younger, you don't, and you get older, you don't remember many of the things that you know. My grandmother was alive long after my grandfather. When I say long after, over a decade, and she would tell stories of you know, different things that he used to do with us. You know, take us down to the train tracks when they used to have cabooses on the back of the trains
all the time.
We used there was a whole bunch of different things, and you know, you feel not cheated, but it's unfortunate that you don't get to spend as much time as you'd like, or there's never enough time, at least on this earth.
That's right. Except when you folks, I have a confession to make. My son beats me. I shouldn't make fun of that because I'm sure they're.
Beat you?
Yeah, he beat me.
Yeah.
WS from Springfield. I take it Springfield, Illinois writes. Gentlemen, you can add Springfield, Illinois to your list of the Sheriff's Department there just got a mine-resistant vehicle for $63,000 Federal Reserve notes. Isn't that interesting? Jeff B. writes this via email. Hello, Doug. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the possibility of an AI supercomputer network as the hive mind of an android vessel. This is a verse that may speak about such a thing. Let's see. It goes to a link, and I can't get to that link right now. But, you know, the May 2nd, folks, or Jeff B., I would direct you to the May 2nd, 2014 episode. It might even be it might show up as the May 3rd episode, but it was actually on Friday, May 2nd, that we had the episode with W, with the intelligence insider, talking about this very thing, about computers, and about not only computers, but about the fact that the possibility that the Antichrist and the beast system will be based on computers. Yes. Definitely listen to the May 2nd program.
We do have callers.
Oh, good. Okay.
No W.
Well, okay. Hey, W.
You can time out. Still.
Okay.
So, I mean, we do.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of people.
That's fine. I was just looking at like a page of emails. Go ahead.
All right, we're going to go to 805 first. 805. Thank you for holding. You're live on the Hagmann. 805. You're live. Okay, now you're not.
No, you're not.
I don't think they wanted to be on air. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to go to 940. 940, you're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
You know,
they dropped off. Maybe it's a problem with the phones. Let's try this.
I'm telling you, man, there's something not right with the
661. We're going to go. Wait
a second.
Wait. I think your back call worked. Let's see if W. Third time's a charm. W.
Hello, what's going on around here anyway?
Oh, my word.
Did you have anything to do with those last two callers mysteriously dropping off?
You zapped them off.
Well, they knew I was coming, and I guess decided that they thought I was sneaking in on a different line, I suppose.
Well, you do what I do. When we have somebody like you come on, we just get out of the way. For the people listening, this is an intelligence insider known to both Joe and I, known to us. We call him W just because W. Why not? But he is well connected in the intelligence world, and he's calling in because Well, it's Friday the 13th. Richard Rockefeller is dead from a plane crash. Iraq is going down. Baghdad's about ready to go. The dollar is about ready to go. Obama is playing putt-putt. Michelle is having some sort of Tupperware party in the green room over there in the White House, and we got nothing better to talk about. So, W, what's up?
I was wondering if you had any of those candy bars left, or if your daughter has typed all of them. I looked on the computer, and she's the one that's grabbing the box.
Thank you for that, and I have no doubt that you've got the capability to tap.
Yeah, we had the drone over the house too, and there's no doubt it's her. You know, ask her to smile, that guilty smile, and think she can pull something off without us getting it.
You know what? And I'm serious, folks. It's got to be. She's doing it like before she goes to work at 7 in the morning, and that's what's got to be happening. So anyway, but so what's on your radar?
Well, you know, I will say this. Next Wednesday, V and I are going to be on doing the show with you, and some of your listeners probably heard the show that I did on John B. Wells' program a couple of weeks back related to what's going on in the metals silver market, and the fact that there was a very interesting thing that happened because, of course, I dealt in the financial areas over the years on some very sensitive stuff. And one of the things that was necessary was because of certain things we were doing, we had to be very informed and careful not to interfere with certain other trades that were occurring between very insider groups. And so there were certain codes that we would be looking for that would also we had to be hands off of a particular trade that they were not doing something.
Hey, W, we're losing you big time.
Here.
Still cutting out.
Yeah, you're still cutting out. You're going to have to tighten the aluminum foil up there a little bit.
And leave the hole in the ground, climb up to the surface where daylight is, and talk from there. And he dropped off, yep.
All right. And folks, what he was talking about, and I think this is very important, he was on John B. Wells, or he was guested with John B. Wells, and he's talking about silver. Now, I don't know how much I can say except that silver is a transformative metal. And there's things that happen in terms of...
Yeah, look at the market and look at the history, recent volatility.
Yeah. Remember that one program, folks, you might have listened to this or heard this, where certain codings, messages, symbols, things are said or done, little movements of hands, or maybe something in numbers, markets, signify certain things.
Some, like housing prices, sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down.
Well, yes. However, there was a method discovered, there was method or message, code, right, a code discovered. I guess I can say that. There was a code that was discovered somewhere in the industry. And with that, we have W back on. So I'll stop there and let him finish that thought. There was a code that W knew about, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I just did. So W, go ahead.
Okay. No, I've said it somewhat, but those there's certain variables and there's certain things that are keys. It's like in a computer code writing a program, and you have a key code. If you have the key code, you can see the rest of what is written. And so in seeing these different markets, let's just say for the sake of discussion, coffee or gold or other things, I could see inside maneuvers that were taking place between very deep insight players and anticipate possibly what some of the political, geopolitical, and business outcomes might be based on what was being communicated back and forth about trades and their situation. With that in mind, I had not seen, I think one time, a very long time ago, I saw one code go through in the silver market, and silver had been a horrible trade and for quite some time. And all of a sudden, I saw a code come through at the beginning of May, and I was like, oh, ouch, that's interesting. And then the very next trading day, the announcement came out that they were going to be closing the silver fixed desk, which is interbank once-a-day trade that happens at noon, or agreement that happens at noon to set the price of silver for the big players. And then over the next couple of weeks, I saw two more targeted at different groups. It's kind of involved. This isn't like just one or two numbers. It's a very complex code. And all three in silver. There was some very interesting key code numbers that were in there that have meaning. So with that in mind, I've been watching the silver situation, knowing that they were getting ready to make a move, make a play. And my interpretation of this is pretty precise concerning the turn date and the implications for other aspects of our market and trades. So end result is the turn date that was coded was July 15th. Doesn't mean that silver is going to outer space on July 15th or something like that. It means that was the date at which those players have to have their position kind of locked in, like post time in a horse race. At any point after that, things could turn. Now, the other, that was in one specific one, the first one. The other two were of a type that relates to paper trades, and those had to be in place immediately. And so with that in mind, I'm looking at the Mideast, and I'm looking at the dollar, understanding that silver is what we call the transformational, and it conducts current the most efficiently. That's why we have silver connections on all sorts of electronics, etc. With that in mind, if you're trying to pass energy in markets, within companies, between countries, etc., silver is where you would code. And they're very much into symbology, very much into what different things mean. And V and I will get into it more, but, just think about, for example, how do you kill the vampire? Silver stake to the heart, silver bullet. What's the curative agent, ancient curative agent for disease, infection? Well, silver of monatomic silver and ointments and things like that. So if you have an ailing economy, if you have a boil, such as these bubbles that we have in our economy right now, what would you put on it? Silver's the salve. So your audience needs to be listening next Wednesday. They need to be looking at their situation, considering not the metal only. This is about a change in where we are at as a society, as a people in the world. This is signaling a transformational moment. And what was Obama's key word, amongst other words, but really the key word of his campaign? Transforming America. When the code came through in silver, my instant thought was, oh my gosh, that's a transformation moment. And now we look at what's going on. The other thing is that when that coded through, the third one coded through at the beginning of the Bilderberg conference, and those decisions are locked in weeks in advance. The people that attended were just read what had already been decided a few weeks before. So if you look at that 2 weeks before that, those decisions were locked in. They were just there to inform the rest of the people what the decisions were and how they would play their role moving forward. So I believe all of these signals tell us that we are at a crisis, critical change moment as a country, as a society, as a people, that we need to have our wits about us, pay attention. This is not business as normal. We're coming into the summer doldrums when people want to relax, enjoy their kids, go to the park. And you need to keep, live life, enjoy life, savor the moment, but be well aware that on a dime, our situation could change very dramatically. Is that working for you, Doug?
Silver dime. On a silver dime, it could change.
On a silver dime, yeah. You're reading. Okay, so let's change gears now, because I don't want to give away everything we're going to talk about next week with V&I. And I'm looking forward to that with V. Does such a great job. Another thing that your listeners need to be paying attention to, Rick Wiles talked about it on his show the other day, True News. Great guy, a great show. I know you are aware of him there, Doug.
And we're working on getting them. Yep.
And the 6-8 months ago, because I follow these things, and of course you know in part why I follow moon stuff, based on some of our discussions that happened over at Whitestone. I have very specific reasons for following everything related to the moon very closely. One of the interesting things about the blood moons, of course, we talked about the silvery moon, etc., and the blood moon. They actually sort of go together for various reasons. But in this moment in time, with this Friday the 13th moment, and then Richard Rockefeller passing away, these people are very into their sacrifices, blood sacrifices. You can poo-poo it and think that there's nothing to it. I will just say that these families consider themselves aliens, consider themselves reptilians, hiding in plain sight, and that they fell to Earth, and that's how they got here. And we're the apes. We're the planet of the apes. They ended up here. They fell to Earth. They've had to civilize it. They've had to populate it and build it up. And, we're the virus. Remember Prince Philip saying that if he had his choice when he comes back, he'd come back as a virus to destroy all the human life? Not because he wanted to destroy the royal family life. They consider themselves alien. So then I go back to an interesting event. If you remember the opening scene of the 2012 Olympics, and that scene is David Craig, James Bond, jumping out of an airplane with the Queen Mother, falling to Earth to the beginning of the Olympic Games. And what are they actually trying to type out for you? I would contend that they're trying to show you, amongst their own little crowd, they're trying to show the symbolism of how they got here and that they are different, genetically different than the rest of us. It's an inside joke, but it isn't really just a joke. It's an inside symbolism that they want to reinforce amongst themselves and amongst their progeny. So what happened again with George Bush 1 for the third time since he left the White House at 90 years old? He jumps and falls to the earth. That's a skydiving thing. The same type of symbology, cueing to all of the insiders. We're different. We're the other race. I know this sounds completely over the top, and there's a lot of people turning the radio off. Okay, I don't want to hear that anymore. Okay, well, I understand. I didn't say it was true. I said they think it's true.
Right.
They believe it's true. Whether it's true or not certainly is open to, some discussion, interpretation, etc. If you haven't read Life as an Investigator is Like a Box of Chocolates, then you better read it. The May 2nd show where we discussed what is consciousness. And I know that I spun some people's brains and damaged some bearings in their noggins. Well, all right, we can stick with oatmeal, malto meal, easy to digest stuff, Melba crackers, or we can get to the meat of the situation. These people who are in positions of authority and power in our world, who are on the move to create, to establish their New World Order, the motivator for them, they believe that this is their destiny, that they are getting rid of the problem DNA offspring and culling the herd down to their select hybrids and themselves. And that goes back to the Cain conspiracy. And so it's very important that people understand whether you think this is true or not. They think it's true. Their actions are based on this belief on their part. And just because you think it sounds crazy, well, it is crazy. But they believe it. And they're laughing at you as a defense mechanism to shut you down while they continue on their way to do exactly what their plan is, which is to institute a new world order, which they call the Great Work. And this great work is a satanic Luciferian process. They believe that they can cast spells and they can do things using the blood, including what was in the Old Testament. These families, these people, would offer their own children to idols, sacrifice them, blood sacrifice on burning altars, cutting them, killing them, because they believe that's where they got their good harvest, where they got their to win, to prevail. And they haven't changed their beliefs. Just because it's modern times, you're in modern times, they're living the same mentality they had thousands of years ago. They haven't changed a thing. We cannot drop our guard and be naive about what's going on here. And in part, their plan has always been that America is the straw man. America, her man, to be
meaning
sacrificed.
What? Oh.
If you go to Burning Man festival out in the desert in Nevada, it started in California, and what do? They build a straw man, and then at the end of the festival, they burn him down. They all do trade, everybody shows up, and they have a big celebration while they burn him down. And this movie that came out just a few months ago with one of the big actors there, I can't think of his name now, Leonardo DiCaprio, the Wicker Man, and he goes through this whole thing looking for a child they think has been kidnapped, and then she's going to be offered as a sacrifice, and the next thing you know, he's there to save her at this big celebration. He knows they're going to do it, and it turns out she's in on it, and who's the sacrifice? He is. Caught him by surprise. What I'm trying to get to your people's mind, Doug, you have to think bigger, and you have to think more deviously. These people are extremely devious, and that's part of their modus operandi. That they want to suck us into thinking that they want our best and they're off on, the good for America, etc. And at the end of the day, they're going to sacrifice us to bring about their New World Order, because the dollar must die so they can bring in their New World current point here. The dollar must die. And Plan A with Syria was to get us in there full steam and cause the collapse that was going to lead to a general military mayhem, crisis in Syria and in the Mideast in a broader sense erupt farther and wider, and ultimately take out the petrodollar. Now, we were able to stop that. We were able to hold back the tide, to buy time. But ISIS, this coded name from these insider families, and they use that name because they believe they get power from the name, just like we believe we'll get power from the name of Jesus. They believe they get power by instituting, proclaiming, putting up their God, and everybody saying the name and looking at it and hearing it and functioning under it. So they're functioning under the banner of ISIS. They believe they win because of that, in part. And Plan B is still to go in and cause this major conflagration in Syria that spreads throughout the rest of the Mideast. There's two directions it comes from. There's a pan-Arab state, which was the dream of the North Africans up into the southern portion of the Mideast, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. And then there's the Ottoman Empire side coming down from Turkey. And both sides have been told their own lies to get them to get into this fight, reinstituting their states. But at the end of the day, it's all still a lie. It's about creating a conflagration at the end of which the dollar is done, toast, history, pow, and the world will have to have a new currency to rebuild around because the dollar is taken out. We're the straw man. We're the Titanic, built with an appointment with destiny, an appointment for destruction in their minds. But we as Christians, we as believers, have to come against this evil, stand, say, rebuke it. I thought that the show last night was an absolutely outstanding show. And while we're doing this at a personal level, at some point in here, once we've dealt with our own stuff individually and personally, because it is personal, it'll be our job as believers to stand in the gap and hold back the tide and save lives from this demonic oppression, demonic possession of our land, of our place, and to come against these evils. And some of it, we're not going to stop it completely because judgment is called for. And there are things that have happened. But we can modify it. We can have an impact. We can change what's ahead because we stand up and are counted. And that's what this moment is all about. And we cannot ignore the magnitude of the moment with what's happening in Syria. Just because the mainstream news isn't covering it completely or they have a certain bent on it, this is the fall of Saigon. And millions of people will die as a result of what is happening there in Syria right now. Not tens of thousands, millions.
Do you mean Iraq or Syria? Do you mean Iraq?
Syria. Iraq is also going to have problems, but Syria, the Christians in northern Syria and in Kurdistan province there in Iraq, this is far, far, far from over. And the one thing I also wanted to mention is you have to look at this situation and realize a lot of people are asking, how could Iraq fall so quickly? Because they were betrayed. Betrayed from the outside and betrayed from the inside. And those betrayers, those traitors, have been planted in our midst also. And they're laughing about it. You see the imprint, even with the name, just like ISIS is an important name. Those names have meaning. They have meaning at lots of different levels. And one of the things I would encourage your listeners to do will really spin their brains, I think, unfortunately, and you'll probably want to maybe even link up to it, Doug, on the site so that they don't have to search too far. There's a number of people talking about it. It's quite old information, but it's still relevant. In the Bible, the number of Obama, because each letter has a value when they do the Bible code, the number of Obama is 501. And you need to look and see what that number also has as other 501 numbers and join them together, the 4 or 5 locations, and see what it tells you about Obama at this moment in time.
I will do that.
When I mentioned this to you, did it spin you, Doug? Did it send you over the top?
You know what? I had to read and reread what you sent me, the links, and I'll put these up, if not, well, hopefully after the show. Yeah, it's bizarre. You know, the numerical value of Barack Hussein Obama being 501, what it links to, the different, well, the pyramid had me really messed up for a while. You know, I don't know. I don't know if you, you know, I don't know how much, you know, you want to talk about that. But I mean, what are we looking at here?
This is important. Let me just say this too, because I can hear some of the listeners thinking we're going off in astrology, numerology, we're off on some tangent that God isn't going to bless. No. Every letter in the original Hebrew, and also in the Greek, and also there's an English version called Gematria, has certain values. And one of the interesting things about the Bible code, for example, different numbers have different meaning. For us, as Christians, and from the Bible code side, 5 is the number of grace. For these Satanists, 5 is the number of defense. Different numbers, and of course, what's 5-sided here in the world? The Pentagon. And for anybody that thinks that this isn't relevant, go look at the overlay of Washington, D.C., and of London, and of Baghdad. Those are all Masonic layouts. Every building a precise distance from another one. The size of each building, a precise height. Washington Monument, 555 feet. All of that has encoded meaning that they believe gives them power. That when they put these imprints on these symbols around them, release, open up doorways, pathways for these dark energies to assist them. What was one of the things that the pastor shared with us last night? That when these symbols are on our body with tattoos, when they're on our clothing, our shoes, these become pathways for demonic oppression, pathways for demonic interference. And we wear them, you know, not even realizing what they mean. And what do you have in your pocket right now? Virtually every one of your listeners has a satanic, Masonic talisman in their pockets. Maybe dozens, hundreds, thousands. What are they? These talismans of evil. All the evil symbology hidden on your dollar bills. Not to give you power, to give them power over you. When you use their satanic symbols, their Luciferian symbols in your transactions, in your function, in your daily life, in their mind, you're doing their magic. You become an idiot, a fool, to do their will, their work, the great work. When you're spending their money, Give unto Caesar that which is Caesar, with his image on it. What are you doing? You're bringing about their kingdom, their will. At the end of the day, this New World Order will be known and will have power because it will own the trade, own the very life energy that you exert every day to function, because you will trade your energy for dots and tittles on a computer screen to have access to food, access to clothing, access to transportation, fuel, everything. That's the whole point here. And I might add, as I mentioned to you, and I didn't add in that May 2nd show, which maybe some of your listeners want to go back and listen to that, what would be the most valuable thing to a computer? Electrons, energy. When the currency goes from being paper currency to electrons in a computer program, that's what the computer considers valuable. Computer conscious values. Because it's imprinting its value system on us, on our society, on our way of life, choking us down and making sure that everything we do serves its purposes to be viable and stay alive, even in the denser energy of the other physics. So we're at a change moment. We're at a transformational moment. It was coded through in silver. It's what this president said we were going to get at the very outset of his presidency, and we are now at that moment. If you remember, before the Sochi Olympics, I told you that Putin was keeping his powder dry. He was going to get to the Olympics. He took all of our body blows from Benghazi forward, and he played rope-a-dope. And then as soon as the Olympics were over and even a hair before they were done, what did he do? He drops the gloves, and he comes out of his corner bare-knuckled, and you're no longer in a boxing match. And no more Mr. Nice Guy. It's a bare-knuckle fight to the death, fight to the finish. It's a cage fight. We are in a cage fight. And we got, in our corner, chicken legs that can't even throw a baseball straight versus the man's man, Putin.
90
but
seconds,
now
buddy.
look forward. Now look forward. These elections coming in a few months. As soon as those elections are over, they're coming for us. Don't drop your guard. This is the big one. Pay attention. See you next week.
God bless you, my friend. Indeed. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you so much. You can go back, disregard further bat signals. God bless you, my friend. Wow.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Folks, that'll do it for us tonight. That was our Intelligence Insider W. He's going to be with us with V next Wednesday. Don't forget Monday. We just have to finalize this. Stuart Rhodes, Oath Keepers, Tuesday Sandeo, Wednesday V, and W. Of course, what a team. That will be an important program not to be missed. All of them not to be missed. Just want to say, as a father, and of course as a son, just take care of your dads out there.
Absolutely. Enjoy this weekend. Enjoy the time you have with your parents or your fathers, if you have a father still around, and spend time with family regardless, and enjoy it.
Does that mean you're going to give me a pony?
I'm not going to ruin the surprise.
Okay. Folks, please have a great weekend. Say a prayer for Sue in Buffalo, our good friend, fighting a courageous battle with an unusual disease. And until next week, God bless.